Are you lost in the chaos of today's society? If all you need is a daily dose of quick updates on social matters around you, then look no further and tune into The Forest Side, an 8-minute social inquiry podcast by English Club of Foreign Trade University. Strap in and get yourselves ready to look at the world from a whole new perspective. And it all starts right now.
Hello, welcome to another episode of The Far Side. I am Andy, and speaking with me today is my friend. Please welcome Jack.
Hi, Andy. I am so glad to be back with this episode.
I heard you got some problems, right? How is it going? Are you feeling any better?
Thanks a little bit. I guess my body is sometimes too sensitive for the Hanoi atmosphere.
Oh, it might be the reason. You know, the high level PM they have been talking on TV.
The particular matter. I like to call it microdust, as it's easier to remember.
It's been a hot environmental issue lately. Actually, today's topic is about environment too. Environment preservation versus economic growth. So tell me, why do people think when getting to this problem, Jack?
Well, there are still many one-sided opinions, whether to choose economic growth or environmental protection. For example, developing countries value economic growth over the environment because of their desires to reduce poverty and stay competitive with others. They prioritize building infrastructure and using cheap energy from fossil fuels. This may result in pollution and environmental degradation.
It's relatable that Vietnam is a developing country and we are putting a lot of resources into promoting industrialization and urbanization, which unfortunately creates detrimental impacts on the environment and natural assets. The PM we mentioned earlier is the consequence of industrial factories and vehicle emissions, right?
Well, mostly, yes.
Yeah, and I still wonder how about protect the environment opinions? I mean, how can they be wrong when protecting the environment is obviously a must?
Well, I didn't say those opinions are incorrect. They're just one sided. Do you remember Greta Thunberg?
Oh, the 16-year-old girl who had an impassioned speech at the UN's Climate Action Summit in 2019, right?
Right. Her speech caused a lot of controversies. You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. People are suffering, people are dying, or we are in the beginning of a mass extinction. And all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Yes, that is one of her scolding towards world leaders, and it's quoted a lot on social media. I have to admit, it sounds both bad in a time, but I think it is a little bit over the top.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Greta, as well as us, are living in the most prosperous time in human history. Global hunger is at an all time low, and life expectancy is up. Big help from economic growth right there.
Well, she's got a point. The global temperature and sea level were rising, extinctions were occurring at an alarming rate, but she went too aggressive and didn't really propose any solutions. And it is not that government doesn't do anything about those problems. Actually, there were many organizations specialized to control those consequences already, like the APA in the US, Greenpeace in Netherlands. They require a lot of money for equipment and campaigns. A big part of the money is thanks to economic growth. So canceling the economy would not simply solve the problems.
Yeah, and economic growth has its own importance, doesn't it? It creates jobs, increases the average income, promotes technologies, thus making people's living standards higher.
You're right, Jack. Also, economic growth helps provide better education and research, which can lift a country out of poverty and ultimately lead to a sustainable future. According to National Bureau of Economic Research, economic growth was the main reasons for tens of millions of people getting out of poverty in Asia. Poverty kills millions of lives every year. So, therefore, economic growth may save millions.
On the other hand, protecting the environment is crucial too. We all know that since we're little kids. It's to protect our survival first, as we're alive thanks to what this planet provides. Protect other animals and plants, and finally, protect the future generations.
So, these two notions both make sense and are right. You agree with me?
Well, after those examples we had listed, I have no doubt about this. In fact, some people see economy and environment as a win-lose relationship, which means if you take one of the environment, you get one or more for economy and vice versa.
Can't agree with you more, Jack. But now, with people and the government's awareness of the environment, there are some countries that actually turn the relationship between those factors into a win-win relationship. As a win-win relationship, the environment and economy can coexist and jointly sustainably develop. How do you know what those countries are?
I can only guess. Singapore, right?
That's right. Singapore is a very representative example of the win-win relationship between the environment and economy. In 2009, the amount of carbon dioxide emission reached the highest in Singapore history. 90 million tons of carbon dioxide were released that year. And even in change for that, Singapore's GDP hit 236 billion USD, 64% lower than 2019, when their GDP hit 372 billion USD. Furthermore, Singapore's amount of carbon dioxide emission lower from the peak to the bottom, which is 39 million tons of it.
In addition, I know that the Singapore government puts a great effort into developing social welfare. According to Green Growth Knowledge, Singaporeans have 100% access to improved sanitation, fresh water, and electricity. And I still wonder how they can be able to reduce that insane amount of CO2 emission, along with increasing their GDP and maintaining citizens' high quality of life.
Well, that's the point. Singapore, with its strict environmental laws, policies, and shifting to a green economy, has recently played an important role in these eco-friendly campaigns. By founding a program and funds for enterprise and groups, the Singapore government encouraged them to adopt sustainable development, and it did attract many foreign companies to invest in this country. By 2019, OECD's research showed that more than 11 billion USD had been invested in Singapore, accounting for 30% of their GDP.
Oh, I've heard of the word green economy a lot, but I'm still so vague about it. So, what is it exactly? Is it an economy that's green? So, somehow following this means that developing economically has to pair with environmentally friendly, sustainable outcomes, right? Planting trees or things like that.
Well, basically, the green economy is an economy that aims at reducing environmental risks and ecological scarcities, which also aims for sustainable economic development. Examples of green economies initiatives are concentrating on developing the renewable powers like wind, solar, geothermal, and biogas power, and stopping using or imposing taxes on fossil fuels is also a solution for many countries choose to follow.
So, back to the example of Singapore. They literally have an island to treat garbage radically. Every day after being collected, 16,000 tons of garbage will be incinerated, and 90% of it will be turned into heat energy, which contributes 3% electricity into Singapore's demand.
So that means they only have to treat 10% of that garbage every day. Wow, so impressive.
And even in factory, malls and households have underground sewer pipe systems linked to the sewage treatment centers. Those centers can turn sewage, seawater, into drinkable water. Every year, Singapore spends 370 million USD on water treatment to be partly independent of Malaysia's water importing.
Obeying the laws and being aware of how precious water and other resources in this island country are, many famous hotels like Intercontinental or Marriott International have cut down on using water to minimum. One-time plastic bottle, then replace them with glass bottles.
So, to be able to achieve a win win relationship between those two factors, the government should have clear, decisive plans and intentions in the long run.
And we can't just rely on enterprise and governments to take action all the time. It is not just the strong bonds between economy and the environment, but our society. But we have the responsibility to protect, to preserve, and not to put an end to mankind in the future.
Hopefully, and as an individual, I think we can start saving the earth by thinking globally but acting locally. It means that we do normal things like reducing the usage of plastic bags, using biogas, electric stove instead of fossil fuel, and such more small but mighty things to provide a green life.
So let's act for the environment from today.
And that's also the end of today's episode. We both hope you guys have a useful and brand new perspective about the relationship of environment and economy.
Well, sadly, this is also the last episode of The Far Side. But before we end it, again, this is Andy, and I couldn't be happier for this journey, and it is my pleasure to be your host. Thanks a bunch, and I hope to see you again in one day.
Hey, it's Cam here. It's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it? I felt grateful for having a chance to raise my voice, and I love you guys. And that's that. See you again very soon in the upcoming events by English Club of Foreign Trade University.
Hello, this is Zoe. We have come through all episodes, and the foresight couldn't have been so successful without you guys. We did go through lots of memorable moments, and thank you for all your love and support.
Hi, it's me, Maya. I'm very honored to be one of the voices of the far side. To be honest, I thought this would be a long and exhausting journey, but it actually turns out to be quite fascinating and unforgettable memories with amazing people. Yes, I mean you, amazing listeners, supporters, followers of the Farside podcast, as well as Mastermind. For the very last time, thanks for listening.
And I'm Jack. On behalf of our hosts, thank you guys for tuning in, and I truly hope that from this podcast, you will be a force of change in our community. And for now, this is The Far Side by English Club of Foreign Trade University. Signing off.